Welcome to my YouTube channel Wise Whispers, where silence speaks.
The rain hadn't stopped for hours. Drops slid slowly down Henry's worn coat as he stood in front of the house, his house, or at least it used to be. At 65 years old, Henry Carter tightened his grip on the small leather bag in his hand. His fingers trembled slightly, not from the cold but from something deeper, something heavier. Hope. "I guess this is home now," he whispered, but deep down something didn't feel right. Still, he forced a smile and rang the doorbell. Chapter 1. A lifetime of sacrifice. Henry had never been a wealthy man. He spent most of his life working in a small manufacturing factory, waking up before sunrise and returning home long after dark. His hands were rough, his back slightly bent, but his heart was full of love, especially for one person, his son Daniel. After Henry's wife Margaret passed away when Daniel was just 8 years old, Henry became everything: a father, a mother, a protector, and a guide. There were nights Henry skipped dinner so Daniel could eat more. There were winters when Henry wore the same old coat so Daniel could have a new one. And there were dreams, Henry's own dreams, that he quietly buried so his son could chase his. "Dad, one day I'll make you proud," Daniel used to say as a child. Henry would smile every time. "You already have, son." Chapter 2. The gift years passed. Daniel grew up, got a good job, and eventually got married to a woman named Clara. At first, Henry was happy. Clara seemed polite, respectful, charming even, but something about her eyes, always calculating, always distant, made Henry uneasy. Still, he ignored it because Daniel was happy, and that was enough. When Daniel mentioned struggling to afford a proper home, Henry didn't hesitate. He sold his own small house, the one filled with memories of Margaret, the one where Daniel grew up. Every corner held a piece of his past, but Henry let it go, because his son needed a future. With all his savings combined, Henry bought Daniel a beautiful house in a quiet neighborhood. The day he handed over the keys, Daniel hugged him tightly. "Dad, I don't know what to say," smiled, his eyes slightly wet. "Just be happy, that's all I want." Clara smiled too, but her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. Chapter 3. The visit months went by. Henry didn't visit often. He didn't want to interfere in their new life. But loneliness has a way of growing louder over time. So one day Henry packed a small bag and decided to surprise his son. "I'll stay a few days," he thought. "We'll have dinner together, talk, laugh like old times." That thought kept him warm during the long bus ride, and now standing at the door he felt that same warmth. The door opened. Clara stood there. Her expression changed the moment she saw him. "Henry, you're here, not Dad, not even Mr. Carter, just Henry," he said softly. "I thought I'd visit for a few days." She hesitated. Just for a second, but Henry noticed. "Well, come in," she said, stepping aside. The house looked exactly how he imagined, beautiful, perfect, but strangely cold. Chapter 4. The first crack. Daniel came home later that evening. "Dad," he said, surprised. "You didn't tell me you were coming." Henry smiled. "I wanted it to be a surprise." Hugged him, but it felt rushed, distracted. Dinner was quiet, too quiet. Henry tried to start conversations, but Clara kept interrupting or changing the subject. After dinner, as Henry was about to settle into the guest room, Clara spoke. "Henry, one more thing." Her tone was calm, too calm. Henry turned. "Yes," she crossed her arms slightly. "We usually rent out the guest room. Since you'll be staying, we'll need to charge you for lodging." For a moment Henry didn't understand. He thought he misheard. "Sorry, what?" Clara sighed, as if explaining something obvious. "The room, it's not free. We have expenses, utilities, food, you understand." Henry's heart dropped slowly, painfully. He looked at Daniel, waiting, hopping, but Daniel avoided his eyes. "Dad, it's just how we manage things now," Daniel said quietly. That moment, something inside Henry cracked, not loudly, not dramatically, just a small, silent break. Chapter 5. The night of realization. Henry lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling, the same ceiling he had paid for, the same walls he had built with his sacrifices, and yet, he had never felt more like a stranger. Was this the same son he raised? The same boy who once held his hand tightly while crossing the street? The same child who cried when Henry left for work? Tears formed in Henry's eyes, but he didn't let them fall, because at 65 you learn how to hide pain. Chapter 6. The decision. The next morning Henry woke up early. Old habits never fade. He made breakfast, cleaned the kitchen, even fixed a loose cabinet door. Clara barely noticed. Daniel barely spoke, and that was enough. Henry quietly packed his bag. As he reached the door, Daniel finally spoke. "Dad, you're leaving already?" Henry turned, and for the first time there was no warmth in his smile. "Yes." A pause, then softly, "I think I overstayed my welcome." Looked uncomfortable. Clara said nothing. Henry reached into his pocket, pulled out some money and placed it on the table. "For the room," he said. His voice didn't shake, but his heart did. Then he walked out, without looking back. Chapter 7. The empty road. The rain had stopped, but the heaviness inside Henry hadn't. He walked slowly down the street, his small bag hanging by his side. Each step felt heavier than the last, not because of his age, but because of what he had just left behind. A home, a son, a piece of his heart. He didn't know where he was going. For the first time in years, Henry had no place to call his own. He reached a bus stop and sat down quietly. People came and went, but no one noticed the old man sitting there staring into nothing. After a long silence he whispered to himself, "Maybe I gave too much." Chapter 8. A stranger's kindness. As evening approached, the temperature dropped. Henry pulled his coat tighter, but the cold still found its way in. "Are you all right?" Henry looked up. A young man, maybe in his late 20s, stood in front of him. His name tag read Samuel. "Fine," Henry replied politely. Samuel didn't move. "With all due respect, you don't look fine." With something genuine in his voice, something Henry hadn't felt in a long time. After a moment of hesitation, Henry said quietly, "I just needed somewhere to sit." Samuel nodded. "Well, you can't stay here all night. Come with me." Frowned slightly. "I don't want to be a burden." Samuel smiled. "You won't be." 9. A new door opened. Samuel lived in a small apartment above a local cafe where he worked. It wasn't big, it wasn't fancy. But it was warm. Make yourself comfortable, Samuel said, placing a cup of tea in front of Henry. Henry held the cup carefully, the warmth spread through his hands and somehow into his chest. Thank you, he said softly. That night, for the first time in a long while, Henry spoke, really spoke. He told Samuel everything about his wife, his son, the house, and the moment that broke him. Samuel listened quietly, no judgment, no interruption, just respect. And when Henry finished, Samuel said something simple but powerful. You didn't lose your home, sir. They lost someone who truly loved them. Looked at him, surprised. No one had said something like that to him before. Chapter 10. A second chance. Days turned into a week, then 2. Henry stayed with Samuel temporarily, but he refused to remain idle. I may be 65, Henry said one morning, but I can still work. Samuel laughed. I never doubted that. Soon Henry started helping at the cafe downstairs. At first it was small things, cleaning tables, organizing supplies, fixing broken chairs, but something changed. Customers started noticing him. They liked him, his gentle smile, his calm presence, his quiet kindness. Good morning, he would say to each person, and somehow people felt better. The cafe slowly became more popular. Not because of fancy menus, but because of Henry. Chapter 11. The unexpected rise. One afternoon, a regular customer approached Samuel. You should really expand this place, the man said. It is something special. Samuel smiled. I know, his name is Henry. Within months, the small cafe transformed. More customers came, more staff were hired, and Samuel made a surprising decision. Henry, he said one evening, I want you to be my partner. Was stunned. Partner, no. You can, Samuel interrupted. You already earned it. Henry's eyes filled with tears, not of pain this time, but of something he thought he had lost forever, respect. Chapter 12. Meanwhile, back at the house, things weren't the same. Daniel sat alone at the dinner table. The silence was louder now. Did Dad call? He asked one night. Clara shook her head. No. Days passed, then weeks, no calls, no messages. Daniel began to feel it, that emptiness, that absence. The same absence Henry had felt for years. One evening, Daniel looked around the house. The walls felt colder, the rooms emptier, and suddenly he remembered. The mornings Henry used to wake up early, the meals he used to cook, the way he fixed everything without being asked, and the way he left without anger, without shouting, just quiet pain. Daniel's chest tightened. What have I done? He whispered. Chapter 13. The realization. Regret doesn't come loudly, it comes slowly, like a shadow that grows over time. Daniel couldn't sleep anymore. Every night he saw his father's face, that small broken smile, and the money left on the table. That moment replayed again and again in his mind. Finally, one morning, Daniel stood up. I'm going to find him. Looked at him, surprised. And say what? Daniel paused. His voice was low. I don't know, but I need to try. Chapter 14. The search begins. Daniel had never felt this restless before. The house, once a symbol of comfort and success, now felt like a reminder of something he had lost. Someone he had lost. He started with the obvious, calling old friends, checking nearby shelters, even visiting places his father used to go. Nothing. It was as if Henry had disappeared. Each failed attempt added more weight to Daniel's chest. Maybe he doesn't want to be found, Clara said one evening, her tone uncertain. Daniel looked at her sharply. He said firmly. He deserved better than what we gave him. For the first time, Clara didn't argue, because deep down she knew it too. Chapter 15. A small clue. Weeks later, just when Daniel was about to lose hope, he received a call. Is this Daniel Carter? Yes, this might sound strange, the voice said, but I think I've seen your father. Stood up instantly. Where? At a cafe about 20 miles from your area. He works there, I think. Didn't wait another second. Thank you, he said, already grabbing his keys. His heart was racing, hope, fear, guilt, all at once. Chapter 16. The reunion. The cafe was small, simple but full of life. Daniel stepped inside, his eyes scanning the room nervously, and then he saw him. Henry stood behind the counter, calmly pouring tea for a customer. His movements were steady, his face peaceful, different, stronger. For a moment, Daniel froze. This wasn't the broken man who walked out of the house weeks ago. This was someone rebuilt. Dad, Daniel whispered. Henry looked up. Their eyes met. Time stopped. For a few seconds, neither of them moved. Then Henry gently placed the teacup down and walked toward him. Daniel. His voice was calm, not cold, not angry, just distant. Daniel's throat tight. I've been looking for you. Nodded slightly. I figured. A long silence followed, heavy, uncomfortable, real. Chapter 17. The apology. Daniel took a step forward. Dad, I'm sorry. The words came out quickly, almost as if he was afraid he wouldn't get another chance. I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know how I let things get that way. But I'm sorry. Didn't respond immediately. He simply looked at his son carefully, as if trying to understand whether these words carried truth or just regret. You charged me for staying in my own house, Daniel, Henry said quietly. The sentence wasn't loud, but it hit harder than any shout. Daniel lowered his head. I know, and you said nothing. That one hurt even more. I was wrong, Daniel whispered. I should have stood up for you, sighed softly. I didn't need you to fight, son. I just needed you to remember who I was. Eyes filled with tears. You're my father. Looked at him for a long moment, then replied, yes, I am. 18. A new truth. Samuel watched from a distance. He could sense the tension, the history, the pain. He stepped forward gently. Henry, is everything all right? Henry turned slightly. Samuel, this is my son. Samuel nodded politely. Nice to meet you. Forced a small smile. Thank you for helping him. Samuel replied calmly, I didn't help him. He helped himself. Words stayed with Daniel because he realized something important in that moment. His father didn't need saving anymore. He had already saved himself. Chapter 19. The hard back home. Dad, Daniel said after a while, please, Didn't answer immediately. He looked around the cafe at the people smiling at the place where he had rebuilt his dignity, then back at his son. Home, Henry repeated softly. Daniel nodded. Your home. Henry's expression changed slightly. That house stopped feeling like my home the day I had to pay to stay in it. Silence. Daniel had no response because it was true. Chapter 20. The lesson. Henry stepped closer to his son. His voice remained calm but firm. Daniel, I gave you that house because I loved you, not because I wanted anything in return. Nodded, tears falling now. I know, but respect, Henry continued, is not something you give when it's convenient, it's something you live with every day. Wiped his face. I understand now, studied him for a moment, then said something unexpected. Understanding is the first step, but change is what matters. Chapter 21, a different ending begins. Daniel took a deep breath. I don't expect you to forgive me right away, he said, but can I at least visit you? Henry looked at him. This time his expression softened slightly. A small word, but it carried hope. Chapter 22. The distance that heals. Daniel didn't return home the same man that day. Something inside him had shifted. For the first time in years, he saw clearly, not just what he had done, but who he had become. The drive back felt longer than usual, the silence heavier. When he walked into the house, Clara looked up. Well, she asked. Daniel didn't respond immediately. Instead, he looked around the furniture, the walls, the quiet emptiness. Then he said slowly, he not coming back. Clara frowned. What do you mean? Daniel turned to her. I mean he has a life now, a real one, without us. Words landed hard because deep down Clara knew they didn't just lose Henry, they pushed him away. Chapter 23. Facing the truth. That night Daniel couldn't sleep. Again, but this time it wasn't just regret, it was responsibility. He sat in the living room, staring at the table where Henry had once placed the money. That moment replayed again and again, then suddenly he stood up. I can't keep living like this, he said. The next morning Daniel made a decision, one that would change everything. Chapter 24. The house no longer feels right. Days later, Daniel called Henry. Dad. I want to show you something, he said. Henry hesitated but eventually agreed. When Henry arrived, he stood in front of the same house again, but this time he didn't feel anything, no warmth, no attachment, just memories. Daniel opened the door. Come in. Stepped inside slowly. Everything looked the same, but something felt different. Then Daniel spoke. I'm selling the house. Henry turned, surprised. What? Daniel took a deep breath. This house was never really mine. It was built from your sacrifices. And I disrespected that. Said nothing. I don't deserve to live here the way I have been, Daniel continued. Not after what I did to you. Stood in the corner, quiet. For once she didn't interrupt. Chapter 25. Clara's realization. After a long silence, Clara finally stepped forward. Her voice was softer than ever before. Henry, I owe you an apology too. Looked at her. I was wrong, she admitted. I treated you like a burden when you were the reason we had everything. Eyes filled with tears. I can't undo what I did, but I regret it. Studied her for a moment. He could see it. This wasn't arrogance anymore. This was regret, real regret. Chapter 26. Forgiveness is not forgetting. Henry walked slowly through the house one last time. The living room, the kitchen, the small details he once imagined his family enjoying together. Then he turned back to Daniel and Clara. I forgive you. Both of them looked up instantly. Relief washed over their faces. But Henry raised his hand gently. Doesn't mean everything goes back to how it was. Their smiles faded slightly. I've moved forward, Henry said calmly. And I can't go back to being the man who stayed silent when he was disrespected. Nodded. I understand. This time he truly did. Chapter 27. A new beginning. Months passed. The house was sold. Daniel and Clara moved into a smaller place, one they earned on their own. It wasn't as big, it wasn't as perfect, but it was honest. Daniel started visiting Henry regularly, not out of obligation, but out of love. And slowly, carefully, they began rebuilding something, not the past, but something new, something stronger. Chapter 28. Henry's true home. The cafe had grown even more successful. Henry was no longer just helping, he was leading, guiding, inspiring. People came not just for coffee but for him, his story, his strength, his kindness. One evening Samuel sat beside him and smiled. You know. This place wouldn't be what it is without you, chuckled softly. And I wouldn't be here without you. Samuel shook his head. You just needed someone to remind you of your worth. Looked around at the people, at the warmth, at the life he had built again, and for the first time in a long time he felt truly at home. Chapter 29. The final moment. One quiet afternoon, Daniel sat across from Henry in the cafe. Dad, he said gently, thank you for giving me another chance. Smiled. Thank you for earning it. Was a pause, then Daniel asked, do you ever regret giving me the house? Henry thought for a moment, then shook his head. Looked surprised. Why not? Henry's eyes softened. Because it taught you something more valuable than a house. Leaned forward. What? Henry smiled faintly. Respect. Moral of the story. Love given without respect becomes pain, but respect learned through loss becomes wisdom. Sometimes life takes away what we think we own just to teach us what truly matters. Moral of the story. True love is not proven by sacrifice alone. It must be honored with respect. When respect is lost, even the strongest relationships can break, but when people take responsibility, change their actions, and value one another, trust can be rebuilt and relationships can grow stronger than before.